Hello Gemini friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Gemini August 2020 Astrology Must Knows. We have a lot to celebrate this month. I'm going to go through piece by piece to talk about the wonderful layers of this month, and we'll also talk about some things definitely to watch, and I'll give you some specific dates. Here's the list of things to celebrate. First, we are stepping out of the height of the emotion of the eclipse season. This is very exciting for everyone, but especially for Geminis, as that very heavy emotional energy doesn't flow naturally with the busy, thinking, moving, active energy of Geminis. So a lot of things that have been not in resonance with how you move through your life are going to be phasing out. Eclipse time is a super intense time where radical changes, dramatic endings, major new beginnings, trajectory shifts where you start going in a direction that's completely different than where you had been plotting towards. All of those are very much indicative of the eclipse cycle, and we have ended an eclipse cycle from the middle of 2018 to the middle of 2020. The Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle has been going, so a lot of very final endings are coming from themes that have been in motion for the last 2 years. And this is very exciting for Geminis because now the eclipses moving forward are going to be in the Gemini eclipse, Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse cycle. So we've opened up a new path of dramatic change for Geminis, but in a way that at least the elements are matching the way you move through life. The Cancer Capricorn elements were not in great sync for you. So every time an eclipse would happen, it would happen at a weird angle. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, something else just to put this in perspective is that there are 6 eclipses this year. There aren't always 6 eclipses every year. A lot of times we'll have 4, and every one that comes is a harbinger of all of these potential changes in drama, etc. So the fact that we have 6 this year and 3 of them have been in June and July are just kind of indicative of what we have walked through or are walking through, depending on when you're watching this. Okay, so in August, we leave that cloak of the heaviness of the eclipses and we're finding our new normal. You're going to hear me talk about this. This is a must know for Geminis. This month is very much about finding the new normal, and it's very similar in likeness to the energy of a baby giraffe. Look up how a baby giraffe is born and how they just pretty much start walking immediately. Well, that time where they just come out and they're born and they're trying to walk, that awkwardness of these beautiful, graceful animals, that awkwardness is like this month, okay? There's a lot of awkwardness this month. There are challenging angles called a quincunx angle that just kind of, they're just awkward. And so it's like the energy of trying to find your footing in your new normal, in the new normal in the world with the changes that have occurred, in the new normal in your life with the changes that have occurred. And so this process is for this month is about finding your footing, getting strong now in the new direction, in the new changes. And as the month goes on, this is, going to be solidifying. So that's exciting. Something else we have to celebrate is that Mercury Retrograde and Venus Retrograde are now complete, even in their post-shadow periods. So the uncertainty, the themes of the past, not being able to do anything in the Venus or Mercury-related areas, so that's all been kind of stalling out progress and momentum. So we've got a little opening here. I especially still like between July 22nd and July 28th as your big action points. If you're watching this early, I like those dates better than any dates in August. But here in August, there's still some momentum with Mars moving through Aries in a sign that is making a nice angle for Geminis. So that's very helpful. And Mars will be in Aries, that sign that's in a nice angle for Geminis, until the beginning of next year, of 2021. So all of the things that Mars retrograde is now going to do is going to be in a nice angle for Geminis. Okay, so that's exciting moving forward because every step that we take, every day we move into August, we're getting deeper into the Mars retrograde pre-transit shadow period. Mars rules momentum, oomph, ambition. And so things that need ambition may still be super strong at the beginning of this month because Mars is in its native sign of Aries. All of these other retrogrades are behind us. So you might find that you can push some major things through and that some things start really gelling for you at this time. Just take note to not get lulled into a false sense of security that particular flow is going to stay. Because as we get closer to around September 9th or September, the 9th to 12th, like that kind of area, the Mars retrograde energy is going to take foot through the middle of November, and then the post-transit after that, okay? And people tend to get lazy. So if you need to do something that requires your focus and momentum, you want to take care of that towards the end of July, the beginning of August, because you will notice that those Mars energies are going to make you lazy. But because they're in a nice angle for Geminis, the blessing could be that things you put forth in the past and things you're putting forth now could put some things on autopilot for you, as long as you know when to stop pushing. That's the key, okay? So contracts, big, Venus moves like haircuts, wardrobes, design projects for your house, for anything like that was stalled out by Venus retrograde, you now have this nice window towards the end of July and into the beginning of August where you can push these things through. Making purchases, making sales, making big decisions, doing things with the eclipse energy, like if you had eclipse options come in, activating those. This is a really great time, especially towards the beginning of August. So those are all things that we have to celebrate. Something else that Geminis specifically have to celebrate is that you still have Venus moving through your sign, and now that it's direct and it's out of the phase of the retrograde, you've got a little bit more time for Venus blessings, especially those of you towards the end of the sign, although any of you can benefit from this, but especially those of you towards the end of the sign will have Venus crossing over your placement and can bring a nice boost to love, beauty, money, things like that. And there could, just be some smooth sailing in the departments of things that had been troubled or brought up in the months prior. Something else Geminis in particular have to celebrate this month has to do with the transiting North Node moving through the sign of Gemini. Okay, so and when we look at the charts later, I'll give you the visual for this, but the transiting North Node, well, just the North Node in general, is not actually a planet. Astrologers call everything a planet, just for simplicity's sake, but it's actually a calculation based on the nodal path, the nodes of the moon. This has to do, and actually the eclipses are also on that elliptical. So, the same way eclipses tend to bring in things that feel destined, the energy of the North Node has to do with our destiny. Your areas of highest expression in this lifetime are what's showed by the North Node in the natal chart. When we're looking at the North Node in transit, it means that there are keys held to your personal highest expression and your dharma, what you're doing here in life, your purpose, what you're supposed to be experiencing and doing. So the transiting North Node shows us keys to that personal dharma. And when you have the transiting North Node moving through your sign, this happens for like around a year and a half or so at a time. And then, it takes full evolution through the cycle for that to come back to you. So it's been a while since it's been here. It's like adding so much extra emphasis on you really getting on track with what you're supposed to be doing. We muddle through life so much, wondering like what's going on, trying to keep up and just get everything done. And then that question of like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What's the best thing for me to be doing? What's the path of most ease? Those types of questions you may notice in these last few months have been coming up stronger. Now, this is going to be especially true, again, for those of you towards the end of the sign, but again, also possibly true for everyone in the sign, because once it's in the sign zone, it's affecting everybody through the energetic influence. Okay, so May is when this transit started, and it's going to go through until the beginning of January 2022. And every month that we move through May of 2020 through January 2022, it goes through the sign of Gemini backwards. Okay, so those of you at the beginning of the sign are going to be most affected towards the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And anyone in the middle, that will be placed like towards the middle, like spring to summer of next year. So just kind of like halfway through and again, this is for the northern hemisphere, but you just reverse the seasons for the southern hemisphere. But it's like you're tracking through sequentially backwards, this transiting North Node, bringing you on track with your destiny, starting with the people at the end of the sign with the bigger focus, but the storylines and the whispers are going to be getting louder for every Gemini. So anytime over this next year and a half is just an amazing time when the eclipses and the transiting North Node, everything is scheduling you to really get on track with your destiny. Okay, so that's something in particular specifically for Geminis to celebrate. Okay, so we've got some dates to watch and we have some other things. I'm just going to start to pull the charts up now to give you some visuals. Many of the things that we talk about are going to be true for all Gemini placements, and I will differentiate out. Just if I haven't said this is for early, middle, or late, just assume I'm speaking to all of you, and if there's some differentiation that has to be made, I will let you know. But basically, the early Geminis are those who are May-born or 0 to 9 degrees. My reports are also just as much for you if your moon is in Gemini or your rising sign is in Gemini. And I do always recommend that you watch my reports for, and not just mine, whoever you watch for your rising sign and watch for your sun sign. And if you don't know your rising sign, if you have your time of birth, you can search for how to run a free birth chart online. You could put your time of birth, your date of birth, and your location of birth in, and you can find out your rising sign. And this opens up a complete additional dimension to your experience that is not in conflict with the other storyline. It just goes on at the same time. So the middle degree Geminis are basically June 1st through 10th and 10 to 19 degrees, and late degree is basically June 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. All right, so let's just get a visual on some of the things we talked about so far. I'm using the early degree chart, but don't let that confuse you. I'm speaking for everyone unless I otherwise differentiate out. All right, here's that transiting North Node in your sign. See, it's at 28 degrees. There are 29 degrees in a sign, and it starts at 0, goes to 29 degrees, but the nodes move in this, it's moving in this backwards fashion. So over the next year and a half, it's making its way backwards through the sign, with those of you at the end of the sign featured more prominently now, but everyone being affected, okay? Here's Venus. We talked about that. There's, in Gemini, and they're making a conjunction. So when the transiting North Node and Venus come together, the chance for your money and your love and, your self-esteem to start to get on track with your highest expression, that increases in chance. And that's for everyone in the zodiac, but it's more particular for Geminis. And of the Geminis, those of you in the late degree will get an extra blessing, but it's true for everybody. Okay, so the next thing that's going on is and this is another thing to celebrate, is that the energies of Cancer that have been very heavy emotionally, it hasn't just been the eclipses, it's been Mercury and the Sun, Mercury in retrograde, moving through Cancer. That's been just this emotional heaviness for June and July. And some of the emotions could be good and they could be positive and wonderful things are happening, but it's an energy that doesn't flow really well for Geminis. And it's transitioning out. So Mercury will very quickly get out of that space as the month goes on. The Sun is already in Leo. Mercury will join in Leo, and Leo makes a 60-degree angle for Gemini placements, which is a favorable angle. It's the angle of the ingredients on the counter. So whenever the planets are in Leo, this means that Geminis are given these opportunities through the month. You might have to search for them more, like be really awake. I always call it, here's you, and these are your big synchronicity ears, okay? So we want, and your big synchronicity eyes. We want your feelings, all of your senses. We want you to just pay attention with your senses as much as possible to any opportunities that could come in, because sometimes these things come in and out and we're not paying attention. You just miss them altogether. But the reason why this is extra important when it's a 60-degree angle is because most of the goodies that are activated by that angle come from you doing something. That's why I call it the ingredients on a counter, because if you have the ingredients on the counter to make a delicious dish and you pass by, and what do I always say? You can't say, Annie, where's my pie? With this 60-degree angle, right? Like a trine, trines tend to bring things in where a pie shows up on your counter. But the 60-degree angle brings in the ingredients, and then you can make the yummy pie. All right, so you have to do something, take an active role in your destiny. And if it requires action, remember, you might start to get more lazy as the month goes on. So you want to take full advantage of the energies there at play. Okay, so something else that's fun and celebratory for you all is this Mars. We talked about this, is moving in this, again, 60-degree angle. So all for the rest of the year. This started in July, and it's going to go through the beginning of January 2021, as Mars is moving back and forth in its retrograde, with the height of the retrograde being around the second week of September through the middle of November. but the shadow periods are before and after that. So all that time, Mars is going to be moving back and forth in Aries, making these opportunity angles for Gemini. And one of the big opportunities for Mars retrograde is how to use your energy more wisely, more expeditiously, more productively, in ways that are more suited for your life now, rather than your old ways of doing things. And so the lesson for everyone, and especially Geminis, because Geminis tend to move in a cyclical fashion and be a little scattered with their efforts. So it can help you to actually work smarter instead of harder. If at the end of the day you look back and you notice that you were really busy but you didn't accomplish a lot, this transit can actually facilitate you changing how you do things. And one hint I can give you now, and this is coming from a person with similar energy, as I speak about many times, Gemini energy is in this spiral. It's an upward spiral. And I'm a Sag, and I have a ton of Sag energy, and that Sagittarius have that same upward spiral. Okay, so what I have figured out, and it was with the help of Timothy Ferriss's book called The 4-Hour Work Week, a hint that he gives is, or a tip that he gives, is to take a couple of things that you know would make major headway on your projects and in your life, put those first on your agenda for the day, get those done. This way, if you distract your day away or do your usual spiral, at the end of the day, you're still making headway towards something, tangible. So you can use the Mars energies that are going to be possibly stopping momentum, possibly stopping your drive, possibly causing frustration if you try to force. That's the big key energy is anger and frustration that comes from Mars retrograde, because if people are trying to force things and Mars is moving backwards, then they can get that anger and that frustration. But if you notice, as you get deeper into August and for the rest of the year, hey, I'm pushing on this, nothing's happening, I'm getting aggravated, like Annie said. So now I have a choice to stay in the aggravation and try to force it through, or to just be wiser with my energy, take a step back, meditate on the steps to take, maybe just pull back for a while until it's clear or something. Then you can really work with this energy. And as an Aries rising person, Mars is my ruler, and I've learned a lot about how to do this. And now I love Mars energy in the retrograde. I didn't before because I didn't understand it and I was constantly frustrated. But now I don't do my big projects that need a lot of ambition and a lot of follow through in that time. I do them before and I do them after. And if you can align that the same way, then you don't have as much on your agenda for that time, then you can just kind of roll. If you can take vacation time, it's great in Mars retrograde. So utilize the time at the beginning of the month when Mars is still strong is the point, and then understand the energies of what's going on as it progresses. But either way, it's going to be easier and better for Gemini placements than it is for other members of the zodiac for whom this is not going to make as great an angle. So don't fear Mars retrograde. Okay, let's see what else I want to talk about. Okay, so there are several things that we have to discuss that are not as fun and celebratory. Okay, one is that there are more than double the amount of annoying aspects this month as there are sweet ones. And you are going to feel that. And the degree to which you push with this Mars, like Mars is starting to roll backwards, and if you try to push, you're going to hit those other angles, some of them which are with Mars, and it can be very frustrating for you. So again, back to this imagery of this giraffe that's finding its footing, because they have to run with the herd quickly if a predator comes. So it's part of their evolution to be able to just get on their feet pretty quickly. But those hours or whatever where they're stumbling around represent the energy of this month. So this month, you're getting straight from Venus and Mercury having been retrograde and now they're direct. You're recovering from getting the new normal from the eclipse changes and the changes in the world from all of these aspects or these placements in Capricorn here. I have a separate video on this. If you just search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus, you'll find my video about how these stelliums in the Capricorn in these outer planets are really creating this monumental change. So we're finding the new normal as we navigate through there. And then we're starting to move into the Mars retrograde. So you can see there is quite a bit of awkwardness. Then there's this 150-degree angle. A lot of these angles this month, which are like ships passing in the night where you're trying to connect with something and it's not working. So your relationship with that occurring is going to determine how easy you have it this month. if you just accept that this is going to go on, and if you're trying to make something happen and it's not, if you're just like, okay, Annie talked about this, doesn't have to be a big deal, just let that go, then unless you have intuitive guidance otherwise, then you can have this be much easier. But if you don't and you push, you've got these challenging aspects, and 2 in particular. So put these in your calendar, the 13th and 24th, and since they have about at least a 5-day radius, like the 8th through the 29th, so it's most of the month, there are nasty. And I'll be honest with you, you know I'm an optimist. Well, if you've watched my work, you know I'm an optimist. I look at what there is to celebrate, but if there's something dicey or there's something stressful or there's something downright dangerous, I will let you know about that. And amidst all of these glorious things that are going on, even specifically for Geminis, we do have this nastiness, and that is having to do with Mars coming into a clash with Saturn and Pluto, heavy hitters, karmic heavy hitters of these outer planets. And that happens on the 13th and the 24th, but sometimes 5 days before and after you can feel these. So, this most of the month after the first week is fair game for some of these manifestations. Since Pluto's involved, birth, death, transformation, rebirth, physicality, and Mars has to do with your physical body. So what I'm suggesting for this period of time, here are a couple of very important must-knows. If you're in a dangerous situation currently, and you're watching this early, which is why I put them out early, get yourself to a safe space before these aspects hit, because they can be downright dangerous, and they will be for some people, okay? I don't want you to fear it. I just want you to be aware of it, that an ounce of prevention could be worth a pound of cure, all right? So you want to get to a safe space if you're not in one, and especially before these energies start to come in. The second thing to know, it's a must know, do not antagonize a crazy person this month, especially from the 8th on, okay? People are going to be on edge. Mars is the god of war. It rules aggression. It rules anger. It rules violence. It rules warlike behavior. And Mars retrograde is very much going to be about people discovering things they're mad about and having an opportunity to heal that. And Geminis are no exception. I like the protection in there more for the Geminis because of the nice angle, right? But it's still like if you have anger issues, if you're mad or resentful about something, if you have things from the past that you haven't forgiven, if you have issues with your body where you're holding on to something as far as anger, you have a beautiful opportunity for forgiveness, for healing, forgiveness, and for shifting into a whole new paradigm. But you may have to do the work, and depending on how you handle it, it could be challenging, and other people could be going through this less consciously. Someone going through these aspects not consciously will be just ready to explode, and they will. All right, so I recommend not being places where violence tends to happen if you can help it, and following your intuition to keep yourself in a protected situation during these times. This is not the time to step on your brakes when a tailgater is aggressively following you to try to teach them a lesson of, whatever. You don't want to do that at this time because it increases the odds that that person's going to stalk you or do something to you or sideswipe you or something. Tensions are going to be running high for other people, and they may also be running high for you. Something else that could be helpful this month, and of course I'm not a doctor, you have to check everything that I recommend as far as physical recommendations to make sure, do your own research, tune in with your own body, check with your practitioners. But there are some things that you can do to help your body relax, and the more relaxed you are, the more you can make better choices when these tensions start to build, and the more clear you can be when you have to use your discernment to get out of a situation that could turn into anywhere from a nuisance to being dangerous, okay? L-theanine, the letter L, and then Theanine. This is an amino acid, and it's part of our chill sequence, okay? So when we're stressed, we burn up this L-theanine, and we need it for proper calm. So supplementing L-theanine, they have little things you can put under your tongue, can help to give more of that amino acid when it's deficient and when it's most needed, which helps you to have more wherewithal when stress comes, and it helps you to handle it more gracefully, okay? And other things like magnesium supplementation, which again, you have to just make sure that's okay for you because it can affect your cardiovascular rhythms and other things, but that's a chill mineral, So sometimes having these things not be deficient can be helpful during the times when there's extra stress. Also, things like physical exercise, therapy, and liver cleansing, which is the energetic housing of anger, which is related to this Mars, which is related to these angles, can be helpful. Okay, so now here's another thing to celebrate. We're going to leave off on a nice note here. The 27th and the 29th, there are some nice aspects, and one of the aspects has to do with Mercury coming in to trine this Jupiter. Jupiter is right next to these heavy hitters, which is part of what is energetically amplifying everything that's going on in the stars. And although it will drop back a bit away from them, it's still part of this sequence, which is, magnetically connected and kind of beaming energy back and forth from each other. So when Mercury comes in at the end of the month here and makes this nice angle, it's accentuating in a positive way this same area that was accentuated in a challenging way from the previous transits, which tells the potential story of conflict coming up and then sweet resolution to come from this afterwards, okay? One more piece here that may become relevant for you has to do with this lady here, Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena is a star goddess. She's my favorite star goddess. She's very, very, very complex. Many of the star goddesses have, one dimension of the things that they focus on. But Pallas Athena has a very diverse range of rulership. And one of the energies that she has is a warrior goddess, okay? So she's the sister of Aries, this Aries ruler here. But Pallas Athena is not aggressive for the sake of itself, and her relationship to war has more of an energy of standing up for what's right. And not to say she didn't, like if you look in the myths, there are ways that she used her energy by turning this one lady into a spider. And anyway, there are some ways she used her energy and her showing of power in not a good way. But in general, she's a strategist, okay? And especially in this Capricorn energy. So the things that come up from this month, from the things that I'm talking about, and a longer term theme, even now as I'm recording this in June and prior, this energy of getting a strategy together for you to show up for your spiritual, I don't want to call it a war, but your spiritual warrior form is through the application of this strategizing. Whereas Aries here, he just will go like blazing headlong into war and fighting for the sake of itself. His sister is more of like, what is the goal here with the war? What are we trying to accomplish? What is the way to go about accomplishing that? And how can we even avoid some of the war if we can accomplish the other things? All right. So there is this energy of this dichotomy between fighting and war, and how can we get a strategy together to either avoid the war or to be more disciplined and productive in the cases where we have to have our voice and speak up against something that's happening. All right. So you might see that this rising of spiritual warrior within you may be coming up, feeling like you have to right wrongs. And although Aries is here saying, let's just, kill them all, like that's what he says, right? That's not what we want to do. That is not how we can live in peace and joy and, and unity in the world. What Pallas Athena is telling us, let's think a little bit before. Let's get a strategy together. Let's see if we can avoid the war, whatever that is. You and your partner, you and your business partner, you and someone else you're fighting against, you and something that's rising up in you as far as a movement to support, so that's something else that's positive. And that energy is going to be involved with this nice aspect between the 27th and 29th, where a plan could come together involving a strategy to heal or resolve the problems that are brought to light by the prior squares, okay? All right, so now for more information, I recommend that you watch my Mars retrograde video, and I did link these underneath this video. So if you click on the little arrow button below this video that says more, you will open up a wonderful array of links for further information, including my Mars retrograde video, my Mars retrograde blog. You can also search for, I don't think I've linked it underneath, but if you search for Annie Botticelli maximizing retrograde transits, you'll find this great blog that I did about some amazing ways to really utilize these retrogrades where you can be doing things and having them be in sync with the natural rhythms of the universe, which is one of my big themes of what I try to help you to do. If you want written horoscopes by me that are super simple and aren't, as involved, and just give a nice summary of the month, including some book reads for the sign for each month, then go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. This link again is under in the notes. And it's a beautiful site with my horoscopes 1 month early that are written and more simple, and healthy lifestyles and other ways to apply astrology kissed is what I call it. Ways to apply astrology into different areas of your life, astrology for wellness, etc. You'll see there. If you'd like to learn astrology and you resonate with how I teach, you will love my course, Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course, even if you don't want to do it professionally, just for your own learning and usage. So you can see that at my school, lumelife.com, Luminous Life Multiversity. So LUME life.com, Lume, the energy of light, and I also have a lot of free courses in my school, so you can check out free courses there. You can get more free stuff at anniehelpsyou.com. I have tons of blogs. I also have my free email newsletter where I give you the salty and the sweet dates, what the transits are, what you can expect from them, delivered into your inbox 1 month early in a written format. And you also get my virtual coaching program called Shine. It's a 28-day program for free when you sign up for my email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. So I have just tons of other things that you can do besides this video to help prepare you for this time. And I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.